Welcome to the deep dive. We take a stack of sources, articles, research notes, and really just try to pull out the most important insights for you.
Yeah. The goal is to give you a shortcut, help you get properly informed on these complex topics, maybe find a few surprises too.
Cut through the noise, find the patterns, understand the why.
Exactly. Connect the dots.
So today we're diving into the AI News Digest from May 29th, 2025. It's quite a mix: new models, performance talk, infrastructure stuff, and some pretty big picture thinking on AI's impact.
For sure. We've got DeepSeek's R1, Google's AI Edge Gallery, a new optimizer technique that sounds interesting, and yeah, Anthropic's CEO Dario Amodei stirring things up about jobs.
So let's dig in then.
Yeah.
First up, this DeepSeek R1 0528 model. It sort of just appeared.
Yeah, that's how the sources described it. It just dropped on Hugging Face. Not a lot of fanfare, no big announcement initially.
But people know it's a license, right? Still MIT.
Right. They stuck with the permissive MIT license for the weights and code, which the community really seemed to appreciate. That low-key approach plus the open license got a good reaction.
And folks jumped on it pretty quickly.
Oh, immediately. People started converting it to GGUF, for running on more standard hardware, getting it onto platforms like OpenRouter and Parasail.io. Fast uptake.
Okay, so what about performance? What's the early chatter?
Well, especially for coding tasks, the word is it's performing surprisingly well, like up there with the top frontier models.
Really? Like which ones?
Comparisons were being made to Gemini 2.5 Pro, specifically in coding benchmarks. Pretty strong claim for a low-key release.
Any specific examples floating around?
There were a couple of interesting anecdotes. One user said it nailed some coding prompts that it actually stumped both Claude 3.7 and Opus 4.
Wow, okay. That's significant if true.
Definitely suggests strong context and reasoning for technical stuff. And another one, someone had a custom Scrabble coding benchmark, right? They said R10528 was the first model to absolutely ace it. Flawless code and tests.
After how long, did they say?
They mentioned it felt like maybe 10 minutes of internal thinking time before it produced the perfect result. Subjective, of course, but suggests deep processing.
Interesting. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. I thought I saw something about response times.
Yeah, that's the flip side. Users noted significantly longer response times compared to the previous R1 version.
Okay, so slower,
Yeah.
but better.
That seems to be the correlation people are drawing. The longer waits seem to come with, better quality answers, more coherence. One person specifically said it got a test question right that Gemini 2.5 Pro had missed.
So a potential speed versus quality trade-off there.
Yeah.
Makes sense. People want proper benchmarks now.
Absolutely. There's huge demand for formal results, rigorous evals to see how it stacks up against GPT-4, Gemini, the usual suspects. People are even wondering if NVIDIA will be interested in the results.
And the price performance speculation?
Yeah, preliminary buzz is hopeful on that front. Some speculating it might even beat a 4 in some areas, considering potential cost.
Right. And that physics benchmark thing. The heptagon.
Oh, yeah, that was kind of a non-starter. Someone tried testing it with a heptagon plus 20 ball setup, but quickly realized it wasn't really testing the LLM smarts. It was mostly about the external physics engine doing the work.
Ah, got it. So it highlights that challenge of figuring out what you're actually testing, the model or the tools around it.
Exactly. And one last quick point on DeepSeek. Some users felt the personality was different, maybe trained on O3 outputs. Some said it had a knack for pointing out errors. Others just found it better at coding overall. Still early days.
Okay, let's shift from model performance to model deployment. Google's AI Edge Gallery app. What's the story there?
This is Google pushing towards on-device AI, running generative models right on your phone, completely offline.
Offline is the key word there, I guess.
Definitely. Privacy is a big part of the pitch. It's out for Android. iOS is supposed to be coming.
And what can it do? The app itself.
It has features like Ask Image, Prompt Lab, AI Chat, lets you interact with models running locally, like Gemma 3 1BIT Q4 is one they mentioned.
And you can tweak settings.
Yep. Users get control over inference settings, max tokens, top K, top P, temperature. You can even choose GPU or CPU acceleration on the phone.
And it's open source.
Yeah, code's on GitHub. Seems focused on letting people experiment flexibly, privately, right on their own hardware.
Sounds good. But were there any, questions or concerns from the community?
A couple things popped up in the sources. One person wondered why it wasn't on the main Play Store if it's official.
Okay. Valid question.
And maybe more significantly, someone alleged a privacy issue claiming the app phone's home sends data back after every prompt.
Whoa, okay. That would directly contradict the whole offline promise, wouldn't it?
Exactly. If true, it undermines the core selling point. It just highlights how sensitive people are about data privacy when AI starts running locally on personal devices. Needs clarification.
Yeah, definitely one to watch. Okay, changing gears again. Let's talk about training these beasts. There's some new research.
Right, a paper for ICML 25 introducing two new optimizer techniques. Subset norm, they call it SN, and subspace momentum, or SM.
And the goal here is efficiency, making training easier.
Pretty much. They're tackling the huge memory footprint of the optimizer state during training. That's a major bottleneck. SN apparently cuts down Attagrad's memory need significantly, from OD to O square root of D.
Okay, that sounds technically impressive. And SM.
Subspace momentum works by restricting the parameter updates to a much smaller, low-dimensional subspace, less to keep track of.
And do they claim it works as well as current methods, like Atom?
They actually claim stronger convergence guarantees compared to Atom and even other efficient methods like Galore. Big claim.
And the actual results, did they test it?
Empirically, yeah. They combined SN and SM to pre-train a Llama 1B model. Said they hit Atom-level quality.
Using less resources?
Yeah, using reportedly 80% less memory and only half the training tokens.
Wow, 80% less memory. That's potentially huge.
It really is. And the code's out on GitHub, too, so people can check it out.
So why should our listeners care about optimizer memory?
Well, fundamentally, less memory means you can either train bigger models on the hardware you already have or use bigger batch sizes, which can speed things up. It could seriously accelerate R&D.
Makes sense. What are the open questions around it?
The community discussion touched on a few things, like does this work well beyond LLMs for other deep learning models? What are the real-world trade-offs versus Galore or quantization techniques? Does it scale okay with really long context windows? And how does it play with highly optimized code, like fused kernels?
So promising, but practical details still need working out.
Exactly. Early days for adoption, but the core idea is exciting.
Okay, so zooming out a bit, let's talk infrastructure.
Yeah.
The hardware, the software stack supporting all this AI. Any interesting bits there? I know we didn't see specific Cerebras benchmarks in these sources, but the broader picture.
Right. No specific Cerebras numbers, but lots of talk about the inference side of things, running the models efficiently once trained. That's a huge focus now.
Who's involved?
Well, there was input from folks like the CoreWeave CTO discussing their stack. News like Bell Canada picking Grok as their exclusive inference provider shows specialized players emerging.
And just more raw power coming online.
Yep. CMU's Flame Center announced a new cluster, 256 H100 GPUs. That's serious compute.
Software side.
Companies like Baton are pushing their inference stacks runtime plus optimized infrastructure. And Hugging Face Spaces got mentioned, called the App Store of AI or an MCP store, basically a hub connecting different processing pipelines to LMs.
Right, connecting the pieces. What about programming languages?
Mojo came up. It's trying to blend the ease of Python with the performance you get from languages like Rust or Swift, aiming for peak GPU performance, another infrastructure piece.
And the big debate, what's the real bottleneck? Energy or chips?
Yeah, that discussion surfaced again. Some U.S. AI labs apparently foresee energy shortages by 2026 because of AI demand.
But there's pushback on that.
Right. A rebuttal citing IEA data pointed out data centers still use a pretty small slice of national electricity, like 1 to 4%. Their argument there is that semiconductor manufacturing growth, maybe 10, 15% a year, is actually the tighter constraint right now on just building out the hardware needed.
Interesting debate. Okay, finally, let's get to those comments from Anthropic's CEO, Dario Amodei. Sounded like he didn't pull any punches about AI and jobs.
No, he definitely didn't. He urged people to, quote, stop sugarcoating the potential impact. Pretty direct.
What was the core warning?
He warned AI could wipe out maybe up to 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs within the next 1 to 5 years.
50%. Wow. And unemployment impact.
He suggested that could push unemployment up to maybe 10, even 20%. Sectors like tech, finance, law, consulting, especially those starting roles.
Okay, that's stark. How did the community react? Was there debate?
Oh yeah, lots of debate. We need to be clear, we're just reporting the discussion here, not taking sides. Some folks were skeptical of the 10, 20% figures. Some thought it might even be higher.
What were the main concerns people raised?
A big one was the impact on the economy. If you have mass job losses, who buys things? As one comment put it, AI doesn't spend money, people with jobs do. Basic economic feedback loop concern.
And the timeline. People thought 1 to 5 years was too slow.
Some did, yeah. Speculation that major displacement could happen even faster, maybe just 1 or 2 years.
Was there comparison to past automation waves?
There was, but also the counterargument that the speed and breadth of AI disruption feels different this time, maybe needing bigger societal changes than before. One projection suggested AI might handle 80–90% of white-collar tasks in 1–2 years.
But not necessarily jobs yet. What's the limitation?
The limitation noted was AI getting stuck, needing human intervention. So the idea emerged that maybe senior roles shift towards unstucking AI agents.
Why would senior roles be more resistant?
The thinking is they often involve more ambiguous goals, tasks where success isn't easily measured by a simple metric, harder for current AI to optimize compared to, say, a clearly defined entry-level task.
Interesting point. Did anyone talk about laid-off workers using AI themselves?
Yeah, the question came up, what stops displaced engineers from using AI to just replicate what companies do, but cheaper? The answers pointed to things like existing barriers to entry, first mover advantages, brand recognition, the usual business moats.
And are we seeing any impact now, like productivity gains?
Yes, examples were mentioned particularly in law. AI workflows apparently letting firms offer services much cheaper, like half the price, because their fixed costs are relatively low. So the disruption is starting to hit pricing and business models already.
Okay, besides jobs, Amadei also talked about hallucinations, right?
He did. His take was interesting. Modern AI might hallucinate less often than humans, but when they do, it's in more surprising ways.
Less often, but weirder.
Kind of. Models like Claude Sonnet 3.7, Gemini 2.5 Pro, with grounding, they were cited as making fewer factual errors and being more willing to say, I don't know, than maybe your average person.
So what's the problem then?
The problem is how they hallucinate. They can generate completely false info, made-up sources, fake facts with citations, but deliver it with total confidence and perfect fluency.
So it looks totally convincing, even when it's wrong.
Exactly. That makes the errors much harder to spot and potentially more damaging than a typical human mistake, which might be, less polished.
Which means we need safeguards.
Absolutely. Things like automated source checking, human review layers are crucial, especially for important tasks. Because a key limit right now is the AI generally can't tell when it's hallucinating itself.
Right. It can't self-diagnose its own errors reliably yet.
Got it. Wow, okay, that was a lot to cover. From DeepSeek's quiet arrival and performance quirks, Google pushing AI onto our phones, that potentially game-changing optimizer research, the whole infrastructure race, and then Amadei's really sobering thoughts on jobs and AI errors.
It really paints a picture of incredibly rapid evolution on so many fronts at once, doesn't it? From like the nuts and bolts of training efficiency all the way up to these massive societal questions about work and truth. Totally. And that optimizer paper, if that 80% memory reduction holds up and scales, that could really unlock the next level of model training.
For sure. And even the DeepSeek stuff showing it challenging top models in coding, but with that latency trade-off, it's just constant progress mixed with new challenges and complex decisions.
So for everyone listening, trying to keep up, it's clearly more vital than ever, but also, yeah, pretty challenging with the sheer volume. Hopefully these deep dives help make sense of it.
And maybe leave you with this thought. Considering how fast AI is improving, how real synthetic media is getting, and this looming potential for job shifts, how do we as a society build the trust and verification we need when telling real from artificial gets harder? And maybe more urgently, how fast do our economic and social structures need to adapt to what could be fundamental changes in how we work?
Definitely a lot to chew on there. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the sources. Hope you feel a bit more plugged into the rapid currents of AI this week.